Hey, folks.
Hello, Toddy. Hello, everyone. Hi, Feynman.
Hi, Toddy. Hi, Sugan.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Feynman. Is this your first time joining the Ratify community call?
Not the first time. I have joined several times.
Oh, okay, I wonder if you have already done an introduction.
Yeah, I can bring a brief introduction to Ratify community folks. I'm Feynman. I come from China, and I'm a product manager at Microsoft for Microsoft Azure Container Registry. Currently, my focus were auras and notary, and recently I want to shift more time and efforts and join the Ratify community through this opportunity. And yeah, this is all about my introduction. Thanks.
Thank you, Feynman. We'll hope to see you from time to time.
Yeah. Likewise.
And do you work with E, who's just joining?
Yeah, I have collaborated very closely with E, and I see it's also coming.
Yeah, hi, E. Well, welcome to the project. Do you have any specific agenda to add today? Or are you just listening in?
I would like to know the direction of RC2 release and how can we help to improve the user experience for RC2. I know our vision for the stable v1.0 release is the ease of use and stability. So I would like to know the direction of the rest of RC release.
Okay, cool. Yes, I have an item on the agenda for RC2. Maybe Luis, we can go through the items that we have in mind for RC2 and what is the main purpose of RC2 and the timeline. So we'll go through that later, Feynman, for sure. Cool. Anyone else like to add to the agenda before we go through the open PRs? Okay, we'll get started then. Yeah, just starting from the bottom, I think Sajay he's not yet on the call. He's probably still working on the contribution letter. Bin, I know Akash took a look at the generate certificate for TLS. Are you blocked on this at all?
Right. So I have a comment if you scroll down. And yes, so the issue is that I use the Helm to generate the cert and CS cert and key, but because the provider and both provider and secret templates need to access those keys and the secret those keys and certificates. So I just moved a secret to the provider YAML file. So, but I think it's bad. So I just wonder if anyone knows there is another option, another way to make it work without like moving.
So are you talking about using Helm to generate the TLS certs and keys?
Yes.
I tried this as well on a different project, and I ran into the issue where I could never get the certificate authority to be in the right spot. So I think it was the certificate authority, but as I remember, the functions, I could not get the functions to pipeline correctly so that I could get all the artifacts I needed. So I ended up having to go back to a script and then feeding them in through like, Helm variables, like using set. So I'm kind of in the same boat you are. There are functions that allow you to do it, but there's something missing, like being able to take the. So for instance, if I create the TLS cert and key, but then I want to get the CA and use that
Yes.
with the bundle, I don't know how to do that with the Helm functions. So that's I don't think the function that creates the cert and key doesn't necessarily expose a CA. You can create a CA and then tell Helm to use it, but I don't know how to get the CA to be able to put it in a chart. Is what I was getting at. So I kind of abandoned that myself.
Okay. Okay, I'll see how it goes, how it works.
I see. So just to confirm, Jimmy, so the workaround that you went with was to use a script and then pass the CA into Helm through a variable. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, there's scripts already written, right, inside the Ratify project.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but essentially all you do is you basically you create the CA, and then you start creating the TLS cert and key, and then when you want to register the validating service to talk to the validating emission controller to the API, you have to tell in the validation configuration you have to give it the CA cert so that it will be able to use a self-signed cert without complaining, right? So that's the main issue. So you need all of them. You need the TLS cert and key. You need the TLS cert and the TLS key to start your service, to start your application up such that it can serve on TLS. But then you need the CA bundle to allow your validating webhook configuration to call that service. So yeah, I spent about 3 or 4 days trying to get the Helm piece to work, and I couldn't do it. So I abandoned it.
Thanks for sharing, Jimmy.
Sorry, it wasn't much help.
Bin, I remember originally Certac came up with this suggestion of using Helm to generate the cert, maybe reaching out to him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just tag him on this PR. He is monitoring the Ratify repository too.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
Cool. I hope you get unblocked soon. Noah and I are working on the inline certificate provider. We're just working out what the signature of the certificate provider should be to work with all verifiers that fetches a signature, fetches a certificate. And Noah, from your last comment, it looks like we're going to investigate the cosign load public key method a bit more. Is that the right status?
Yeah, so I'm going to keep looking into that line of thinking. I noticed as I was digging into here, we kind of have we defined the global certificate map in the controller right now, but then the notary plugin kind of calls into that controller to access that. So when I was writing and dealing with some tests, I ended up with some like weird dependency issues where it's like you can't have a circular dependency.
Yes.
I don't really know what to do with that, but other than, kind of move that certificate map out to a separate package and then refer, just untangle a few dependencies. But I don't know if we want to do that here or somewhere else. I think it'll be somewhat related though, because we'll have different types. It seems like we have like different flavors of certificates.
Yep.
And I just don't know enough about cosign to propose a solution, but I can get back with an answer on how easy will it be for like something inline to work with a different type of certificate. We might need to add a different field that says, is this certificate need to be loaded as an X509 or is it an EC DSA or potentially some other type in the future? But yeah, that's the right status. I'll keep looking into this and I'll update the issue.
Okay, thank you. Next one, Matt, you have a change out for a schema validator, and I believe Akash just had a minor comment on using the local registry image.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can reference one that's already available if that's the case instead.
Yeah,
Okay.
Akash, that's right. Like one has already been generated for all-in-one, right?
Yes, yeah, it's already been
Perfect.
generated. Actually, there's also a specific schema validator one too that was generated. So whichever one you want to use.
Oh,
that'd be
perfect.
great.
Okay. Yeah, I can make that update. Yeah, along with this are on this PR because of the timeouts that we were seeing, or you're trying to figure out where they are. Obviously, I just are skipping those the KH tests for now. And then I did start a comment thread kind of about all the different ways that this might work. I think I linked it in. Yeah, I linked it in there's a conversation there. So if anyone gets a chance, maybe go pop over there and take a look, and any feedback would be appreciated for eventually when we, I think, decide on what the correct path might be, what this looks like. We could, know what route to take. One of the main issues now is why I skipped those tests was in the K8 side. There's the CLS side, you have access to the local file system you can run against a schema file, but there's no easy way that we've learned, right, from like the plugin stuff to get files onto the pod in order to have them local. So that's basically it's the same issue we had with the plugin. So there are a few approaches we could take when we know what we need this to do. But for now, I just did skip those tests, but I could make this change.
Cool, thanks. We'll look at the idea and we'll triage it and contribute our
Great,
own
thank you.
ideas on that.
Perfect, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Back to the PR list. Akash, this one is labeled do not merge. Is it the new Docker library that has a different format to the current auth provider?
Yeah, so previously there was a legacy Docker config version, basically the format which Docker secrets were serialized in the config file. And then Docker switched over to a new version that's been used for quite a few versions. And up to now, they've supported both. Now they deprecated it, and now it's completely removed from the CLI library. So we need to update an RN to also remove support for it. So it requires a bit of changes. So until we get to that, let's just hang on to this PR.
Yep. Do we want to take this for RC2, or are we just kind of leaving the old version in place right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we can maybe discuss that in the triage part. It's not a critical change as of now. Everything still works properly. It's just a formatting change and a support of which formats we will support. And anyways, we've noticed that most use cases don't really use this exact format. Most people use the current new version of the Docker config. So I don't think it's a blocker.
Cool. But if anyone that's using the new Docker format, our auth provider won't work with that.
Oh no, we currently support both. It's
okay.
If someone for some reason was using the old version, which the CLI really hasn't supported in a while, that is what is the concern. That could break because we'll remove support for that.
Got it. But without taking this change, both formats will still work.
Yes, that's correct.
Yep. Thanks for the clarification. Yep. So next PR, Certac has a cosign update that supports the keyless signatures. So we just have some test coverage comments, and he will add additional tests. And then we'll be good to merge. And the dependable update, I believe I've updated the branch earlier today, and all the test is passing. I think I can merge the dependable update for the code QR after this call. Yeah, that's our PR list today. Any additional feedback on PRs, questions?
It's nice to see the new CodeCov reports coming on the PR. I don't know if Bin wants to talk briefly about the code coverage work that he did.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I added this code coverage this week, and it looks like the current coverage test coverage is just 42%.
Right.
And for our store and some auth providers, some important components, the coverage is almost just a 0. So I think we need to take those as issues and to increase the coverage.
Right. It might. So Bin. So for those working, I don't know. Like we reviewed a couple PRs from different authors here. Like is the recommendation like this CodeCov? If you can you actually look into the files here, Susan, into the file and just do you get that? Do you get the do you get the coverage info here? No, not here, right?
Because this is a chart change. I'll find a PR with the code change, maybe the cert provider.
Yep, that's a good one. Then actually go.
So this PR was created before, not in the files.
No, go in the discussion again. Like in
discussion, conversation.
Conversation, yeah. And go down to the. Oh, I see this one. Yeah, this one was created. Oh no, there it is. So can you see? Can you click on the view full report there? So impacted files. So I think if you go into like the impacted files, you can actually go one by one. Like say which one? Like that one seems to have low coverage. So go to the controller, the certificate store controller. Go.
Just a note on this, a lot of stuff got moved out of that file into another. So you get really high coverage on that third file and reduced coverage because we deleted lines. But
I see.
I can see those on CodeCov. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you click on the first provider that go, like this one will tell you like which lines are covered versus which don't, which is pretty cool.
Got it. We want to see the one with the 83%.
I mean, yeah, like it would be nice to understand, like as we review some of these PRs to basically look at what are pieces of code that could potentially be easy to test. So just as we look into closing down the gaps of tests we have. Now, the other question here is like, we do have end-to-end tests that are probably adding some more coverage. I don't know how we are planning on, like, how should we plan? Do we have a way to measure coverage by non-unit tests?
I don't know if it's possible, but I'll do some investigation. Or maybe if anyone knows how we measure the end-to-end test coverage.
Yeah, we can start with we used to have the manual validation pre-release activity matrix. So if we used to have like 10 manual validations to do, and as Akash and Bin's adding more end-to-end scenarios, I think that list is getting very small. So we are improving our test coverage.
Right. Yeah, we should have a conversation maybe in a different occasion as we start kind of closing the what we can actually measure today, and as we start getting into a territory of how do we measure like end-to-end coverage. So
yeah, very cool, Bin. I'll have to look at what these icons mean, like danger. But very cool. Thanks for adding that. Okay, to our agenda today. Okay, the first one is talk about what we should include in RC2 and what's the timeline. Luis, do you want to talk a little bit about the next release? And maybe we can ask Jimmy as well from his perspective what he thinks should be included in RC2.
Right. I mean, obviously, like we want to open this up, but proposal here would be to we just shipped the first release candidate. So proposal here would be to spend this next month basically stabilizing the release, making sure we fix bugs and customer feedback, and as well as trying to basically pay on tested, making sure that we get all the unit test coverage, or as most unit test coverage as we can, so that we can actually release more often and with less manual validation having to be done. We know a couple of things that were having asked by some teams. The plugin support, which it should be already there when we branch for RC2. I know there's been also some conversation potentially about adding support for multiple verifiers for the same reference type, switching the CRD version to beta. So mainly things that have come as customer feedback from the different sources. Obviously, like I'd like this to be an exercise where we all participate, and so if anyone here has a request or has something that they need to see as part of RC, to also obviously bring it up.
So the two things that are, primarily on my wish list is the OCI plugin piece, which is already in main and should be part of RC2 as far as I know. What was the second one? I think it just like flew out of my mind just now. Yeah, I'll have to think about it later. But yeah, that one there is the main one, but there was something else that was just there and I just lost it. Man.
Is there an existing issue for it, Jimmy?
Well, no, I don't think there's an existing issue for it. One of the issues though that we do have is that we'll have to address, at least before we go GA, is at least that's my opinion, I guess, is to replace Gorilla Mux.
Right.
So because it's no longer supported. So they archived the project. So that's
right. But it's not an RC2 necessary.
No.
Right.
It's a pre-GA thing.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, so Luis, if we have things that people like to include for RC2, is the process create an issue or tag an existing issue with the milestone?
Right. So create an issue, make sure there's an issue track, tag it as a RC2 milestone. The milestone should already be created. At this point, we are looking at release to be done by March 3rd. So we have about a little bit less than a month. So again, typically what we want to do on this release is the goals here are stabilizing the main points of feedback from RC1 and must-haves. And then if there's anything else that fits that's not too destabilizing, obviously, like we can have a conversation. We should have a conversation as well.
Yeah, there's a comment in the discussion agenda, RC2 ask for Feb 24th from Vanny. Vanny, are you on the call?
Oh, I see. I didn't saw that.
No, this is a conversation I've had with Ani on the notation side. So there was a date that they were asking for. Just wanted to bring it to Jimmy's attention as well. If we were to scope the date for 24th, what can we, is that possible? Would be the first one. The other thing is, I think it's up to us to kind of decide and communicate what the plan is.
So, yeah, she never said anything to me about it. The 2/24 date. I know that, you know, we're trying to meet a date, but the fallback for 1.0 has to be in that part of that date as well, right? So do you know anything about that with respect to, is it already in the notation, the notary libraries that we're using? When is it available? That's the kind of thing that's kind of a dependency we need for RC2. That's the second one. I just thought of it.
So Jimmy, what fallback you have in mind?
So
Just to make sure that
you all have already updated your registries, right, to support 1.1.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have not. So there was work under, I guess there was an effort currently to go into the notary libraries and make sure that there was ability to fall back to 1.0. So if it would try to hit 1.1 spec in your ECR or in your registries and it couldn't find it, it would fall back to 1.0 and still work. And that's something that we were looking for in the next release candidate.
and that is in the notary
yeah, so I wanted to bring it up
implementation.
as, I wanted to bring it up mainly, I guess, to ask Sajay, is that something that you know about in the notary libraries? And what is the release time frame for that? And can it make it RC2?
Oh, I know only as much as Toddy does.
Pardon me?
Yeah, we've been concentrated actually on the publishing side. So Sajay, on the pool, my understanding was that this is already in auras, right?
Yeah, that's what I think.
And that should be
communicating, right?
Yeah, this is actually theoretically it's already supported, but we haven't done any testing for this. So
okay.
If we could get confirmation on your side, that'd be great.
On my side?
Like with ECR, if we could try it out.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can test that also with Docker Hub, although Docker Hub has very kind of weird state right now.
Are you saying that?
Yeah.
Are you saying that it's currently in RC1?
It should be in RC1. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should work, but the problem is we can't say it works because there's no producer that can produce that right now. So we need either the notation CLI to produce an old format or a image manifest format signature, which doesn't exist.
So are we waiting? So is notation completely abandoned this, or are they waiting for another release that will still do this?
Should be another release.
No,
right?
Yeah, it's a new release. In this new release, we'll have the ability to produce such type of content.
Okay.
As Sajay said, we have no way to make it unless manually going and crafting the manifests. And that's why we cannot really test it right now. With the new release, we will have the flag. That new release should actually come on Thursday. So on Thursday, we'll have the flag in notation, so you can create a manifest, old manifest, the image manifest.
A 1.0.
And and save the signature as using the 1.0 manifest, and then eventually test how Ratify will. So after Thursday, we should be able to do that testing.
Okay.
But Jimmy, one question for you specifically for ECR. ECR, at least the public endpoints, cannot even create the old one because the reference to the subject, the presence of the subject field. Are you going to test it like in,
Yeah,
in your private?
I'll have to get with the ECR folks and find out what their time frame is.
Okay, yeah, keep that in mind that you cannot even do in ECR with the public endpoints, the old one.
As far as going back to, so Sajay, on the February 24 date, is there a specific reason? Like the reason is that that week is also a short week. So releasing on that week might be challenging.
Yeah, if that's the case, we just need to communicate with Vani, that's it.
Yeah, I think at this point, at least the plan was to release on the March 3rd, the week after that.
Yeah, so I don't know what is required right now. So maybe you can tag Vani and Jimmy on Slack and see what is pending in RC1 that the release is required besides the OCI plugin model, right?
Right. Because the fallback seems to be a notary ask.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I'll post a message on Slack.
Sounds good. Thanks, Louis. Next on the agenda, I had a quick question on the PR test. So for example, in this PR, like or in all the PR actually, we do see the E2E test on AKS. How do we, because it's kind of grayed out, how do we trigger it when we maybe like when we want to run it on the main branch? Bin, do you know?
Yeah, if you label it with save to test, it will run automatically.
How do we label?
If you scroll up to the top.
Okay, got it. So actually with the label save to test.
Yes, but it will fail for now because there is no like write permission to the ID token.
Yep. So how do we run it just on the main branch, not on a PR?
If you click Action tab on the top, and if you go to the Build PR tab on the left panel, yeah. And if you run workflow menu, yeah, just main branch and run.
Oh, got it. So there's no way to trigger just that, like it'll run all the workflow that's under Build PR?
Actually, I can make it run for each like push, or maybe I can make it run like every day, something like that.
Yep, got it. Maybe like if you have other higher priority items, we can just create a tracking issue.
Yeah, I can create one.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, that's all I had. And Feynman, thank you for adding lots of suggestions. Do you want to go through them?
Yes. May I share my desktop since I might go through some web page and
Sure. Let me make you the host.
Thanks. Now I have the access to share.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you see my desktop?
Yes.
Actually, I have added 4 items to this agenda, but that don't means this 4 topics or feature requests should be regarded as the scope of RC2. It might be post 1.0 or RC3 or future release. But open this discussion for you guys to brainstorming and for open discussion. The first one is to ask for publishing a chart to Artifact Hub you guys might know this platform or not. I didn't find an Helm chart for Ratify. So to improve the visibility of Ratify and make more users aware of this project and install it easily, I think we can publish a Helm chart to the Artifact Hub. And I know CoSign has a CoSign D, which is a little bit similar to Ratify, but it is integration with Kubernetes admission webhook. As you can see from its README, and it shows a similar example with validate the images with CoSign, but it is work tightly with admission webhook. So my suggestion is maybe we can publish a Helm chart to Artifact Hub. In this way, people might find it from the Artifact Hub. It seems like a marketplace for those open source project chart.
I'm just curious, is Gatekeeper already here?
I think it has landed Gatekeeper. Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
on the Gatekeeper page, like, could there be a little link, like, you might want to install Ratify as well, like related packages.
Feynman,
You mean add a link?
Sorry.
You mean add a link to the Gatekeeper page to its README, or?
Yeah, of both. Like we can publish our chart as well as making it more discoverable. Like when people are looking at Gatekeeper, they'll be like, oh, there's also this external provider, Ratify, that I can install.
Yeah, we can. I think we can do both for better readability.
Do you know who onboarded this for other projects?
You mean the onboard process
Right.
in Artifact Hub?
Right. So it might be good to understand the onboarding process, and then like, do these require some sort of maintenance? How do these work?
Actually, I think there's a guide on Artifact Hub which is showing the process of how to upload a new Helm chart to Artifact Hub.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can follow the official guideline to onboard Ratify to this platform.
Okay. Yeah, let's open an issue on this one.
Sure. So I will open it later. The second one is about upgrading the Ratify GitHub Actions and publish to GitHub Marketplace. Actually, I want to let you guys know Auras and Notary are preparing for its GitHub Actions. And at this moment, Auras has landed its GitHub Actions, but didn't publish to Marketplace yet. For the next step, Auras and Notary notation will have its own GitHub Actions. So from the end-to-end perspective, I think Ratify should also get ready for its Ratify GitHub Actions. So in this way, users can call Ratify GitHub Actions in their CI/CD pipeline or integrate Ratify in their actions easily. So I see we have already prepared this repo 1 year ago. Maybe we just need to upgrade it with the latest release of Ratify. In this way, we can have an end-to-end GitHub Actions pipeline.
Yep, Toddy have a question.
Yeah, I would like to understand what is the purpose of the GitHub action for Ratify. What is the scenario where I would like to use this as an action? Is it deployment of Ratify, or what exactly is the scenario that we would like to enable with this?
I think at least it should focus on the setup, deployment first. And the next we can add the other actions like verify as the major.
I am still confused, like how I'm gonna use it, because that like I deploy. Is it a deployment action or is it something else that would like to do, right? And that's kind of what I'm struggling.
Yeah,
with.
first of all, I think we can have is deployment first.
And what will be the next one? And also, if I use, let's say, deployment action for Ratify, but I don't have gatekeeper, right? Or I don't have verifiers. Is that like, is that what we are targeting? And I think if we have the Helm chart, I think it's much more value than creating a GitHub action. That's kind of my point. I don't know whether like we need to spend time on the GitHub action right now. I think we have some other more important things to do. But the Helm chart is important one, and I think you had this. We have the Helm chart and kind of making it more prominent, as you mentioned, publishing on Artifact Help. That may
actually
be more value for us. Yeah.
Yeah, reply to Toddy. Actually, I think the high level goal for Ratify actions are prepare for an end-to-end scenario for the GitHub Actions users, or we say pipeline users. You know, we will have notation and all our actions ready on the GitHub Marketplace. So if Ratify have a setup actions which is easy to be integrated into the GitHub Actions pipeline, that might be very easier for people to use Ratify. It's just a consideration for easy deployment in the CI/CD and the GitHub Actions. And I see there was already a GitHub Actions for Ratify in this repo. So I guess we might made a little bit change and upgrades on this repo, but I didn't look into it very. Go ahead, Todd.
So is it
Maybe,
possible that this is
separate.
I was going to
Go
say, is
ahead.
it possible? I was going to say, is it possible that this is kind of like a GA type effort?
I actually had another thought. So there was a talk that actually we can use the policies for that we are developing, let's say for Ratify to do pipeline checks and enforce these policies, and using Ratify as a binary. Looking at the action, I'm wondering whether that was what is intended with this particular action.
Yes, that's kind of what it was. We don't use the.
Okay, then that is completely different scenario from how we will use Ratify on the cluster, right?
Right.
That's why I was asking, right? And I don't know what is like at this point of time is the question is, what is the priority of actually getting the Ratify as a binary? Because that's what I see from this action.
I don't think there is a priority, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, yeah, I would put that for post GA and kind of like taking, because like what we implement in Ratify as policies that will be useful to use not only on Kubernetes clusters. That there was this discussion in the past, and I see this action as part of this kind of overall strategy to use Ratify for other purposes, not only on Kubernetes cluster. But I would say it's post GA. We need to solve the Kubernetes problem first. That is my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is another scenario, but before that, I think we should focus on the experience on Kubernetes cluster and polish it as much as possible. Yeah, at least I see we have Ratify CLI but it has very less functionalities on the Ratify CLI. I would suggest we polish the functionalities with Kubernetes scenarios first. After that, we can consider how can we extend the scenarios for outside the Kubernetes cluster or outside cloud native scenarios.
Yep, that makes sense.
So for GitHub Actions, so you guys don't think this is a priority before GA, or it should be added when the GA version gets out, right?
Yes, I
That's
think so.
correct.
Yep. Feynman, but can you create an issue to track this anyway? Like at some point, we should update our GitHub action. It's currently like a year old, so probably very out of date. Thanks for reminding that there is a GitHub action. I almost have forgotten.
Maybe everybody forget it for a long time. Yeah. It's almost 1 year.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we can create an issue and for other users visibility, and maybe we have another request on it. So I can move to the next topic.
Yep. No, just had a comment on like if the GitHub action is very out of date, we can make it private. Is that right? I read the message very quickly. No, is that the
Yeah, that's right. Right now it's completely broken right now because it's got like the wrong artifact version, and it's just old. Like nothing wrong, it's just old. So I would prefer as a user to like not have anything there than to have something there that is broken. So just proposing to maybe we just hide it and come back to it when we do want it.
Yep, sounds good.
I think we can also add some notice on at the beginning of this project, something like this project is still under construction or something like that, and do not use it for. But anyway, we can discuss it offline. Where we can track usage.
Yeah, I guess the just a question of like, is anybody using the GitHub action? Is there a way to query that?
Oh, it's broken, right? I mean, if it doesn't have the right.
I mean, somebody might have like a really old version of Ratify, right? I don't know. Just a thought. But yeah, we should at least basically communicate and turn this into a private action.
Yeah, until we have upgraded and align it with the latest release of Ratify, we can make it public, right?
Right.
Okay, I think we finished this item, and the next one is a potential feature request, but I'm not sure people really need it. It is just from the user experience perspective. I want to know if it is necessary to add a new CLI command for Ratify plugin management. As you may know, Ratify has a config.json configuration file to enable and configure those plugins like Notary, Auras, and Spawn plugin. I can redirect to the Ratify and
So what would the CLI do? Would it generate or modify the configuration file?
I think this CLI should do three things, or at least two things. The first one is to install or deploy those plugins. At least we have three plugins: notation, ORAS, and Spawn. So that means we need to install them respectively, and we need to install ORAS, or notation, and Spawn plugin like Sift. So if we have a plugin command like Ratify plugin, maybe we can capture some binary into the plugin system and just use command to set it up very quickly. Something like a plugin system for all of those external projects who want to integrate with Ratify, or we have already integrated with them into the configuration file.
So are you saying that the CLI would actually change the Ratify container when it's already running to install new plugins?
Sorry, Jimmy, I didn't get your point.
So I'm trying to understand how the CLI would be used, right? So my first question was, would it just modify the configuration file or generate a configuration file for installation that we're currently doing with Helm? Or are you saying that the CLI would be used to actually modify the running Ratify container by installing different plugins and configurations?
Yeah, I think it should include generate the config file, or my initial goal is make users don't aware of this configuration file. I mean the config.json. All of those things for users is just use Ratify plugin to initiate or set up those plugins like ORAS, Notary, and other plugins like Spawn. And the follow-up request is enable the modification of those plugin settings. And I think the high-level goal is to simplify the installation and the configuration of those plugins.
Yeah, Feynman, our document is a little out of date. In today's implementation, if you're running in the Kubernetes environment, these configurations have been converted into CRDs, and to enable a verifier or disable a verifier, like it's the native Kubernetes commands to enable and disable them. So I imagine in a Kubernetes scenario, like no customer would interact with the config JSON because that's overridden by the CRDs.
Oh, so what's the current experience? Will users use kukato command to and edit the CRD file to
Yeah,
enable
we can look
new...
at one of our test scenarios. Like for example, you can see the cosine test. It's when we deploy Ratify with cosine disabled, and then the test would enable the cosine verifier, and then we'll perform the validations, and then at the end of the test cleanup, we'll disable the cosine verifier. So that you'll see in the end-to-end test. But we can follow up online, like offline. If you want, you can also create a discussion, like we can also follow up there.
Yeah, I think we at least we should first update the document and make it align with the latest version. Then we
totally
can understand
agree
the current experience and for further discussion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We have 5 minutes, so let's see what else is on the list.
I see Nora has a comments in our chat box. Do you want to keep it or?
No, I think Susan addressed it, and we have next steps there.
So is there one more thing that you wanted to talk about? Was that the moving to a different organization?
Yes, this is the next topic, but I don't think we have enough time to discuss it in this meeting. But I want to set up discussion and to know anyone else is interested in this topic. My initial thought is to move Ratify to a natural home like CNCF, like applies to become a CNCF sandbox project, or under the umbrella of other incubating or graduated project like Open Policy Agent. My purpose is to engage more community folks to join this community and to work with us. This is an ask from Shui, our dev manager for other projects. We are preparing for CNCF mentoring program for ORAS and notation. Both those two projects are CNCF projects, and they have benefits from provided by CNCF. And Shui asked us why not do this program for Ratify. So that's the reason that I have this thought on moving Ratify to a natural home. My personal suggestion is to move to a CNCF sandbox project. Currently, it uses the Microsoft branding and the DataLab organization, but I don't think it's a good status for others to consider adopt or contribute.
So yeah, I like the idea of a sandbox. I don't like the idea of going underneath OPA. I think we are considerably different from OPA, and I think Gatekeeper is just the first of potentially other policy as code solutions or other upstream solutions that may decide to use Ratify. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents, but we can talk about it later.
Yeah. Toddy or Sajid, do you guys have any other thoughts, or you have already plans on this proposal?
And no, I'm just here to kind of hear what others want to say, because we have to find a home for Ratify. That's the plan. Where it still is undecided, and last I heard is submit independently in CNCF was one option. But I would rather reach out to Bridget and other folks who have done this many times to get their inputs as well.
I think it will be good to actually get to some more stable state before we actually look at that. I agree that we need to go and find a good home for it. I'm actually supportive of moving under CNCF as a sandbox, but I think it will be more appropriate after we have at least first version and some usage, because that will kind of give us more leverage and will be more successful there. That's kind of my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, that's just a good justification. And I want to clarify the criteria for CNCF sandbox and incubating. So for sandbox, CNCF will regard the sandbox project as an experimental status, and for CNCF incubating, CNCF regard it as the production ready status. So I think we might not worry about the if we have a V1 release or not. I think the most important thing for us to consider when to move Ratify to CNCF or other natural home is the usage. We need to provide some we can call it adopters or sales users who are using Ratify in their production or for their testing purpose. We should have an adopter list for justification if we apply it to CNCF sandbox.
Yeah, sounds good, Feynman. I think like definitely moving to sandbox is on our roadmap. So we'll follow up on the process and get inputs from others.
Yeah, I see Luis has a comment. Actually, for myself, I have personally, I had experience to apply 2 projects to CNCF sandbox. I think the criteria is not very strict for sandbox project, but we can discuss it further offline if we already have this plan. And I will stop my sharing. And Jimmy, I will contact you offline and discuss how can we collaborate to move it to CNCF sandbox in a near future.
Okay. I know we're over time, and I gotta go grab some dinner. But
Don't worry.
I wanted to say something here about, there's 2 things that, and I haven't written an issue up for the first one, but the code owners file is still broken. It's still showing an error. I think it's because of me. I think it's because I don't have access to the project yet or something, but I'm listed as a code owner. So I just want to make sure that that's not hurting anybody and keeping anybody from doing anything. So I just wanted to call that out. And then one more thing, is Bin still on the call?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on.
All right, so in the old days, how we used to do this cert thing was to actually build an init container that booted up with OpenSSL, and then it would create the artifacts, and then we would stuff those artifacts into a volume, an empty dir volume that could be shared among the containers within the pod, right? So. So, I mean, I've got examples of that I can drop into the Slack, but I just wanted to throw that out there. If we can't get Helm to work.
Yeah, we can think in Slack. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Jimmy. And thank you, Feynman, for all the suggestions. It was good to see everyone today. We're at time. Anything else before we drop?
No.
Okay. Thanks for joining, everyone. We can sync offline and follow up on like discussions on GitHub. So I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.